today. On behalf of Freedom for the Children, Monica Gomez and myself, Zark, Fatah, we want to say a big thank you for being here today. We truly appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to join us and taking a stand to raise awareness for child exploitation and human trafficking. We know that every one of you is here because you are passionate about this cause and want to put an end to these horrific crimes. Human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world, generating over $150 billion a year. That's more than Apple, Amazon, and some of the biggest global enterprises generate. There are over 30 million people in global slavery today. That's almost the entire population of Canada. Human trafficking is modern-day slavery. It is a plague that exists across the entire globe, including Canada, and Toronto is a major hub for human trafficking. Most people don't want to talk about this problem. Most people look away from it. How many of you invited people and they didn't want to show up? They didn't even want to hear about it. People want to pretend like it's not happening. And it's happening. And that's the ugly truth. The media doesn't want to talk about this problem. Celebrities don't want to talk about this problem. So it's up to us to get loud. Let the world know that we're taking a stand and we're ready to put an end to this massive global issue.
Hi, it's Scott here, and we are with
Lucas.
Lucas. And what brings you down to the end the human trafficking event?
Yeah, it's just something I learned about more recently, I guess. The media doesn't really talk about it. You don't hear a lot out of other, organizations or like groups, people like Hollywood and things like that. It's just something you don't really hear about. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to bring awareness to something. So there's obviously it's more prolific than I think we know, and it would stand to reason that there are some powerful people or something's going on that we don't really know about to keep this going the way it is. We can look at the churches, for example. They've had systemic abuse for a long time. I just want to get awareness out here. I don't think any of us for sure have all the answers, but I think it's something we need to bring awareness to.
The average age of entry to prostitution is 13 years old. Babies as young as 6 months are sold for sex. It can be sold for 15 to 20 times a day.
Okay, we are here with Raven from the Guardians of the Children chapter, I believe. Can you explain a little bit more about yourself and what brought your whole group here and what you're looking to accomplish today?
We're here today to support the organizers of this Freedom for Our Children rally. We're here to raise awareness to what exactly is happening to our kids today. A lot of people either turn a blind eye. I don't think they're oblivious to it. I think they choose to turn a blind eye to it. So my hope for today is to get people to open their eyes, people to notice that we are here. We are going to make some noise. We are going to be loud, and somebody has to listen to what it is that we do. Our organization has been in Ontario now in Toronto actually, for 5 years, going into our 5th year. Our primary purpose is to provide support to victims of child abuse and their families. So we do provide direct support to some of our kids that have been trafficked in sex trafficking. And when you get on that side of it, it really is a bit of an eye-opener and a heart-wrenching experience, It
is very massive, but to a level we're not fully aware of.
Yeah, and I think the statistic for the U.S. is there's 2,000 kids a day, so that's a significant number, right?
Somebody has to help these kids because the support that's there from our social programs is just not enough. I find the victims are being treated with more fairness, shall I say, than the victims themselves. And we're hoping that we can help these kids just choose a life of sanity versus a life of insanity, save them from maybe, the life of drugs and alcohol and sex, because most kids that have been sexually abused at a young age do end up being sex trafficked when they get a little bit older as well. So that's the cycle that we're trying to break, and our tagline on the bottom is "Don't let your silence drown out their cries."
Sorry, don't let your silence drown out their cries.
So that's exactly what our mission is right there, and it kind of sums it all up.
Majority of sex trafficking victims are reportedly Canadian-born teenage girls, some as young as 13, who are recruited in various ways, including school, social media, and shopping malls. Techniques used by traffickers including building dependence by buying gifts and posing as boyfriends. And there's a lot of information we're going to share with all of you during the march, and once we get to Queen's Park, that all of you need to be aware of. If you have young children, if you have people in your lives who are young and susceptible to grooming, being stalked and targeted, you need to be aware of this information. The only way we're going to put an end to it is through awareness. Freedom for the Children is a grassroots, Arizona-based movement leading a global movement in over 172 cities in the U.S. and 47 cities in Canada. There are two women who aren't here today who created this initiative, who enrolled Monica and myself a few days ago to take over and take charge of this march. These women have organized marches across North America. They are powerful, they are a force, and we are deeply appreciative for the work that they're doing. Monica and I are here as ambassadors for Freedom for the Children to represent the organization and to bring all of you together. So thank you again all for being here.
Amazing. And as far as your involvement in this and just really being like on the front line, kind of what you said about you can't actually turn a blind eye to it once you've seen it. And so I do feel there isn't that much as far as people seeing or understanding how large this is in our society, and really in Toronto too, which is kind of a lot of people don't really understand that it's in our home, it's here.
It's in our homes, it's with our neighbors, it's in our schools, it's in our justice system, it's everywhere. People look at traffickers as sometimes they have it stereotyped, I guess, as a gang type mentality, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, we've had experiences where family members sold their own kids into the sex trades just to support their own drug habits. So it's more common and it's closer to us than most people even realize.
And let's get loud. Let's make sure everybody hears us, they see us. Stop child trafficking! Stop child trafficking! Stop child trafficking! Stop child trafficking! That's it. Stop child trafficking! Stop child trafficking! Stop child trafficking! Stop child trafficking! Signs that someone may be being trafficked. Someone might be a victim of human trafficking if they are not allowed to speak for themselves and their activities are controlled by someone else. If they're under the age of 18 and involved in prostitution or sex work, if they seem fearful, anxious, depressed, submissive, nervous, paranoid, they may avoid eye contact or seem fearful around police. If they show signs of abuse such as bruising, cigarette burns, or fractures, they have tattooing or branding symbols, if they don't have their own belongings or money and don't control their own passport or other documents, if they seem malnourished or lack medical care, if they move frequently and may not know their surroundings well, if they've been reported missing, these are all signs that someone may be being trafficked.
They took her entire group of friends, pinned them against each other, got nudes, and then blackmailed them more and more and more. This was on TikTok. TikTok is one of the worst apps. Get your children off of it. It's not safe.
All right, my name's Scott Cameron, and we're here in front of Parliament after a nice walk from City Hall all the way through the streets for End World Child Trafficking. And we have here two of the organizers. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I am Zark Fatah.
Monica Gomez.
Excellent, thank you. And what inspired you to put this all together?
So Freedom for the Children is a global movement that has orchestrated marches across North America today, and Monica and I were asked to be the Toronto ambassadors to represent the march here in our own city.
Your name and kind of what brought you here?
My name is Zach Savage, and I just wanted to be a part of the movement. I really believe that until we're all aware of this and until we see that we are this planet and we are the children, then none of us have made it. And I just find it extremely important, and I wanted to be here to raise awareness for that.
Okay, we are here with CHANTELLE. We are their voice. Do you want to explain that a little more and also what brought you here?
Well, I put we are their voice because children are the most vulnerable beings on earth, and children can't get out and protest for themselves, right? So we have to come and be their voice and speak aloud for them, because if we don't, then no one else will. And I'm actually here from Oshawa. I took the GO bus all the way down because I really believe in this. And when we free the children, we free the rest of the world, honestly.
Do you have any messages for children or for parents out there who are hearing this and how they can kind of become self-aware and really take action into their own hands?
Yeah, I say we always push education. A lot of people don't know what's happening, they don't understand what's happening, and as hard as it is to look at it and to read about it, we have to. It's the only way that we're going to make a change. And for parents, they need to educate their children. This is an important matter. It's happening to kids younger and younger. Social media is a huge issue when it comes to pedophiles reaching out to underage children, and it's happening to boys and girls. Don't just think it's only girls, it's happening to boys too.
First off, I just want to thank everyone for being here. Our future children, obviously, thank you for being here. I never really thought that I could be a victim of sexually molestation, but in my early 20s, I was fit, I was from the streets, I knew how to fight, I knew how to take care of myself, but it happened to me. I was drugged in a room, I woke up with a man on my body doing weird stuff to me, and this can happen. This can happen to men, it can happen to women, it can happen to children, boys, girls. So don't think that you can't be a victim, and don't think that just because we're men and we're strong or whatever that we aren't victims too, because we are.
Do you not have children in there? Where's Ford? Where's everybody else? You should be standing here. It's a disgusting piece of meat. Nothing has ever been done for the children in this world. Never! There are no laws to protect the children! Save the children!
Help at-risk youth get support so traffickers don't have to give it to them. Specifically, support organizations that are ministering to at-risk youth like Boys and Girls Club, anti-poverty organizations, and Head Start organizations. Intervene to rescue trafficking victims when they are ready, or plant the seed so you can rescue them in the future.
I usually have a lot to say, and quite loudly, so this is good. For those of you who don't know what Guardians of the Children are about, we help to support and empower children that have been victims to crimes such as this. We take offense to these very crimes, and we stand up and we talk about it all the time. We don't shut up. Doesn't matter who we're talking to, we make it very loud and proud. We also educate the community on these crimes and that they happen right under your nose. People don't realize that kids come home and make curfew that are being trafficked, and that is the real tragedy.
A few symbols that you want to look for is on the FBI website of known pedophile symbols. They're in Blue's Clues, they're in all of these children's shows that we watch. Our kids are programmed at a young age to see these symbols, recognize them, be okay with them.
I want to share a little story for myself. In the name of being vulnerable. A long time ago, when I was around 15 or 16, does anybody here remember T.Wire? Yeah, okay, so I had someone reach out to me a long time ago when I was just 15, 16 years old. Same thing, exactly what he's saying here. All those signs were there. He was a recruiter for a modeling agency, etc., etc. He ended up being a trafficker. I'm very lucky that I got away with my life. I'm not going to go into the details of that story. Years later, I was sitting in class and I heard a voice. Not the crazy ones, I promise. And the voice said, Google his name. And I was like, that is very weird. I've never thought about this person for years and years and years. That's so strange. I'm the last person in class. And I Google this person's name, and the first thing that comes up is a CBC News article stating that he is involved in the disappearance of a young girl who's Canadian, and she has been missing for 5 years.
Demand through deterrence, including publicly naming and shaming buyers of sex and increasing the financial and criminal penalties for buyers of sex. This one's incredibly important. This is where we need the support of our government. Drug dealers get longer sentences than child traffickers. Child traffickers, pedophiles, and people buying this content need to be exposed. If there was more awareness around who these criminals are, who these pedophiles are, and the content that being purchased, sold, and created, there would be less demand and less of these crimes happening.
I am the unseen. You don't know my name, but you have seen me in many places. I am here, but I have also been taken. And while I need you to be enraged, remember, I am the absence of hate. And while hateful acts initiate war on my heart, body, and soul, protector, I need you to be strong.
I was a victim of childhood sexual abuse, and my sister actually committed suicide over it. So, people see these things as like a less egregious crime because it doesn't result in long-term physical damage, but the emotional damage that it causes people can be lifelong and detrimental, even causing end of life.
So you're really saying that a lot of actually the children programs right now, the one, Cuties is it?
Cuties.
Yeah,
I think it's a series that's on Netflix that exploits 11-year-old girls for dancing, I think like hip hop and all different types of dancing and stuff like that.
which is fine, but I guess the way it's perceived in that, and also the director in itself was also convicted of a really child...
Not the director, the co-founder of Sundance has been convicted 3 times of...
3 times?
3 times.
So this is his 3rd time?
This is his 3rd time being charged, yeah. I think this time he was with a 12-year-old girl.
And he's not in jail? Or
He's being sentenced right now. I think he got 6 years.
Wow.
He'll be out in probably 2.5, 3 years.
And kind of the message that was here was like people who like smoke a joint will get 20 years.
Look at the guy that hugged his quarantine friend in Australia, sentenced to 6 weeks in jail because he hugged his quarantine friend.
All right, hi, I'm here with Alex at the end of the world trafficking. So a protest happening, and he reached out to us. He wants some things to say, so please share your message.
So I'd just like to talk about some of the real significance as to why we're actually here at Queen's Park. Now, the thing is that a lot of people don't really want to talk about the actual direct state involvement in child trafficking. And if we look at things like the residential school system, that was authentic, straight-up child trafficking that was conducted by our government and by Child Protective Services.
That's a beautiful, powerful message in the sense of that, about how the state is involved, and only recently, in the last 20 years, did it end.
Exactly. Well,
Not
it
even.
didn't end.
Yeah.
So you've all heard of the 60s scoop. Have you heard of the Millennium Scoop?
Maybe I'm about to.
Yeah, so turns out that they just kept on going, right? So Child Protective Services is still taking First Nations children away from their families and selling them into adoption.
This is called the Millennial Scoop?
Yeah.
Is this, explain more, please.
Okay, so that's basically carrying on from the 60s scoop. So what happened is that when they shut down the residential school system, they didn't repeal the Indian Act. So Child Protective Services still has the right to remove children from their homes simply because they have a cultural difference from what they believe should be.
So it's through the Indian Act that this is able still to carry on to today?
Exactly. And very specifically, Child Protective Services already had a few children that they had in custody because their parents were actually not meeting their needs. So when the Indian Act was passed and they suddenly started taking in thousands of children, that wasn't because all of those children were actually in need. It's because they were allowed to.
Together we can make a difference. Together we can get the government to listen up, to change the legislation, so that we can change the future for our children and help those who can't help themselves.
In unity we rise!
Thank you everyone for joining today on behalf of Freedom for the Children, Monica and myself. Thank you for being here. Stop child trafficking!
Stop child trafficking!
Stop child trafficking!
Stop child trafficking!
These pedophiles are trained. I don't know where the hell they get the training for, but they are trained in how to just pick out people, even myself. Like, I was a victim. I grew up without a dad and grew up in a broken home. And, you know, like I said in my story, that, you know, it happened to me in my 20s. I was 180 pounds, grew up on the streets, was homeless. I was like, no one's gonna fuck with me. But I got drugged, I had no idea, and I woke up in the middle of something that I couldn't handle.
And so now you're saying the residential, from my understanding, the residential schools have closed, but that they're still, where are they taking, what's going on? Like, is there
when we look at the 60s scoop, there was actually a program aired by CBC advertising the children that were up for adoption, Métis children. It was called AIM, Adopt an Indian Métis. And it's, I mean, again, when you're selling children and straight up, not just to Canadian families, specifically they would only adopt to Caucasian Christian families, but they would adopt out to the United States and to England, and without the consent of the parents, and shipping those children overseas. That's international child trafficking.
Get the number on who to call and what to look for.